Welcome to the wonderful world of dance, bringing you exclusive interviews with top dancers and choreographers and reviews of the world's best companies across the globe. You can find lots more on our website at thewonderfulworldofdance.com.
Hi, this is Savannah Saunders from The Wonderful World of Dance, and today I am super thrilled to introduce Eduardo Vilaro, who is the Artistic Director of Ballet Hispanico, choreographer, and also a former principal dancer. Based in New York, Ballet Hispanico is America's leading Latino dance organization, which celebrates and explores Latino cultures through innovative dance. And this year, the company is celebrating their 50th anniversary. So super excited. Hi, Eduardo. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, Savannah. Thank you so much for having me with you today.
So you're currently at your studio, is that right?
That's right. We are at the studios on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. We've been here since 1970.
Wow, that is a very, very long time, isn't it?
Yes, and you know the organization went from we were two carriage houses from the 1930s next to the oldest working stable in New York City. And when I was a dancer, the horses were still there. So our street was an interesting mix of people and animals. So we've been there, and the organization developed up, and now we have 7 beautiful studios that we work with.
Wow, that's a huge growth, isn't it? My goodness.
Huge.
Wow.
Huge.
Well, let's talk about this 50-year history then. Let's go sort of right back to the beginning, as you mentioned, in 1970. How did the ballet company start, or how did the company get off the ground?
Well, our founder, Tina Ramirez, took over a studio of her mentor, Lola Bravo. Lola was a flamenco dancer specialist extraordinaire, and Tina was her pupil. And Tina was also another flamenco dancer extraordinaire. And so she wanted to drop the studio, and she asked Tina if she would take it, and she did. And then the studio slowly grew into a handful of wonderful dancers. And then Tina saw the need for representation on the stage for, at that time, we were called Hispanic people. So for Hispanics, she really wanted that access for good quality arts training in dance and also performances. So I think it was a revolutionary movement. If you think of a woman, Latina, in the 1970s, just saying, I'm going to do this, it's really extraordinary. And this is at the tail end of another cultural revolution, which was, we were just coming out of all the racial changes that were going on in the country. So it's interesting to be speaking with you today because we're in a very similar position again.
Yes, sadly enough, we are. And, well, it's great that the company is still around and has this incredible foundation that has been built on over the decades. And before you became the artistic director, the only second artistic director of the company, you were a principal dancer with the company as well. Tell me,
yes.
How did you first get into dance? Let's go right back.
Well, whoa. I'm an immigrant. I'm from Cuba. My family came over in 1969. And, as corny as this might sound, I will always say that dance saved me. We grew up in the Bronx. I saw a lot of my friends that didn't make it through. It was a difficult time. New York City in the 70s was literally and figuratively burning. There was lots of crime and drugs, and if you lived in places like where I lived in the Bronx, your chances, the percentages went really low. And so I found dance through a musical theater role in 8th grade, You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, and I was supposed to dance with my blanket, and I choreographed a little dance, and that's it, hooked. And then my little Billy Elliot story, started. I also hid from my parents. I started looking for places to dance. I got scholarships. And, after a lot of great training, I was at the Ailey School for a while. I went to the Graham School. I graduated at Adelphi University with a scholarship there. I went to Tina Ramirez's Ballet Hispanico to take a class, and she saw me and she offered me a job right then and there.
Wow. And you just reel off those names, Martha Graham and the Ailey and, but tell me about those experiences.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness. I have the honor and privilege to have been in those rooms with these giants. I remember Ailey coming into a jazz class and watching us. And of course, my stomach sunk all the way down to my toes, and you couldn't really think, but you were still wanting to dance, wanting to twirl, right? Or when Graham would walk into our men's class and your back just stood up to elevations you never thought possible. It was really remarkable to be at the time when these giants were still among us. And it was a great time, it was very different. We didn't have technology, so we didn't have the internet either. So there was a lot more, I feel, and that's just my opinion, I feel there was a lot more coming together. People came together to talk about what happened in rehearsal. People ate together. People drank more together. I mean, it still happens. It's not that it's not happening. But there was a camaraderie that was shared that was very tactile, right? And I think we miss some of that right now. I mean, this generation has its own way of doing that. But I thought it was a really extraordinary time for me growing up in New York City.
And after this extraordinary experience and having these incredible influences, you founded your own company. Tell me about the decision to do this and also the experience of creating your own company.
Wow. I don't know if we have time, but I will. I'll try and be. I was moved from the get-go for these people who did these wonderful things, like Ailey, like Tina, who started companies. And I got to a point, I was dancing, we toured the world. It was wonderful. I worked with many incredible choreographers. And, I got a little itchy, which tends to happen. So I left. I did a master's. I didn't know what I want to do. Maybe go into teaching, maybe, really focus on pedagogy. But I did a master's at Columbia College in Chicago because I also wanted to get out of New York. Remember, I came to the States and New York was everything until I started traveling with the company. So I said, I'm going to go somewhere else. So I went to Chicago, and, the stars always align, and there was a need in Chicago with this huge Latino population for representation. So I started a dance company after I finished my master's, and it was blood, sweat, tears. I used some savings that I had. I did it all. So I built a board, I built a company, I built a reputation. And so, you started accumulating entrepreneurial skills that maybe were there but were a little dormant. And you start realizing that the passion that we have as an artist is really the passion everyone should have in anything they do. But we are so connected to it as dancers. We feel it through our bodies. So it was a huge and wonderful task to have a vision and a voice, and then have a community fall in love with it, support it, and urge it on. There are 1,000 stories, yes, but that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
And in addition to running your own company, you have also choreographed for many years. Tell me about that aspect of the work that you do. It was, for years of starting that company, it was built around my work. And I wanted to do exactly what Tina did with giving access. I'm interested in really showing the world the diversity of
what people now call Latinx, Latino, Hispanic, the intersections also of this diasporas that came to build us. There's a lot of baggage with colonization and all of that good stuff, fine. But there's beauty in there that we should celebrate so that we don't put people in boxes. And everyone who sees, a mariachi band or a flamenco, that it's not just that everyone gets to have a conversation in the audience and then sees themselves reflected on stage. And so I started playing with, I did a lot of interdisciplinary work, worked with visual artists, I worked with wonderful, amazing Latino artists, singers and writers and composers. It was really wonderful. And so what I'm trying to do with Ballet Hispanico is continue in that vein. I really want to nurture young Latina and Latinos in leadership roles of choreography, of artistic direction. It's just to get a voice in there. And a lot of, we have a beautiful program that's an all Latina program. It's only Latina choreographers. We have, as the leader of this organization, I think I have a responsibility to continue to give access to those who don't have it.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more, and it's so great to hear that. And I just want to sort of go back a little bit and into this moment when you were given the opportunity to become the artistic director.
Oh my goodness!
Having danced with the company before, tell me about what it was like at that moment to step into the role.
It was terrifying and exciting and surreal. And I could never, never in my life, honestly, did I ever think I would be the director of this company that I love, that I was in for so many years. And to this day, I walk in through the door and I'm like, is this still happening? It is, un poco loco, because it's your mentor. Tina was my mentor. And, because I'm an immigrant also, I had to learn the thread of connection because I was extracted from my homeland. So you lose that, that things are cyclical and circular, and that you can connect. You lose that ability to understand that because you're torn. And so this was a moment for me to really see, oh my gosh, things really do come full circle. And you must support people, and you never know who's the next person.
And coming into this 50th anniversary, when you look back, are there some special highlights over the last, since 2009, when you've been at the helm of the company? Do you have any special moments that really stand out for you?
I do. I'd be lying if I didn't say we performed for Hispanic Heritage Month at the White House and met President Obama. And that was really spectacular and memorable, and will continue to be. And it wasn't just because of him. It was because of the time and the leadership there. And it was a time that something interesting was happening, and we were part of the mix. And that felt very important. Besides that, we've been doing a lot more travel in Europe. And there were many firsts since I've been here for that. We've been through Germany. We were in Scotland. It continues to evolve in Serbia. And so I think it's really important because that cultural exchange and interaction for a culture that's not so visible there, it's great. And the audiences are just blown away. So those are two of those. There are many. I have a list, but those are being able to have a lot of firsts in the organization has been really terrific. And even artistically, being able to have a lot of firsts, like an all-female Latina program, or the work of William Forsythe coming into repertory, which was something that Tina had wanted for years. And we can talk about that a little bit more if you want, but it is spectacular to see those things happen in front of me.
Well, yes, of course. I'd love to hear more about, Foresight being added into your repertoire, as you say. Please tell me everything.
Well, Tina was always looking for choreographers that really moved her and moved the needle about Foresight. The interesting thing about Foresight is that he, in really removing so much and reconstructing classicism, there's something he removed in there, I feel, that's the hierarchy that we find sometimes in ballet. He really shed that. And then that means that, and he used so many different types of dancers that moved him. And I think that's so beautiful in how you move a genre forward. And he continues to do that. I mean, working with visual art, he's very interdisciplinary also. And so I think that Tina was so brilliant in thinking that's what a Latinx or Latino dance company should also have, because we should be able to say that's what we do. We deconstruct and reconstruct. And so I went after him and I sent an email to his people, and I was like, you have to come see these beautiful dancers, please. And I am so thankful to him. He sent someone. The reconstructor, Noah Gelber, saw the company and said, wow, okay, I need to work with them. So we invited him in the studio, and he picked 3 casts, and we're doing a duet from New Sleep. And he's like, they're gorgeous. We're good to go. And it's an exciting thing because I also personally love the work of Mr. Foresight. So it's an exciting thing to be able to showcase that amongst all these other artists that continue to push the boundary not only of our genre but also culturally.
Absolutely, I'm a little bit mesmerized actually, and that when you said about also the threads, they're interesting threads, and I wanted to talk a little bit more about the dancers that you said. They came and saw these wonderful dancers. Tell me about the dancers in your company, and what do you look for dancers joining your company?
So this I'm going to mix this question up with, like, what was it when you first came here? It takes a while. Each artistic director, each artist, each choreographer, and that's one of the things I was coming in as a choreographer as well, selects, has an aesthetic about a dancer. And I had to learn how to take my aesthetic and also bridge it with what the history of Ballet Hispanico. And Tina had this amazing ability to choose these very full character dancers that really spoke to an audience. So then I had to combine that with some of the things I was looking for to have a very eclectic dancer that can really do a lot of interesting repertory, different repertory. And so that took I've been here almost 11 years. I think it took a good 5 years to cement that and still have wonderful dancers, but slowly bring in those dancers. And then I think right now we're at the nice place. I'm very proud of them. I look for dancers that are, like I just said, have big character, big personalities on stage that don't make the artistry overwrought, but really ask you to join them on stage. Without too many facials, of course, right? It's not about this. It's about here, your heart. And it's those big personalities with those big hearts that you really see them on stage. And then I really like a trained dancer with a classical base. That's how I was brought up. That's how I was trained. And I think when you talk about, being able to do a wide repertory, you need that. You need to be able to understand form and shape and everything that the classical syllabus and the classical idiom really teaches you. So I like that. And then I like dancers that are also willing to be teachers. It's very important. We are an organization that not only performs, we do a lot of work. When I'm on tour, I help train the dancers. This is how you go into a community. We have to do this work. We have to share dance with the world. It's important. And they love it. And they become amazing ambassadors of dance. So it's very, all of that. That's a lot to ask for an artist.
Yeah, that is quite a lot. You mentioned, teaching and education there. Tell me about the Ballet Hispanicos. They've got a ballet school, a dance school.
We do. We have a school, 1,000 young people a year from ages 2 to 17. We're an after-school program, so we don't house any dancers. It's not that conservatory model. We've got kids from all over New York City. We have programs in the summer. It's really fantastic. And we continue to grow those programs, which is really great. So
looking forward then, tell me about the celebratory program that you've put together to mark this 50th season or 50th program.
So one of the things I did was, again, how do we look back and celebrate, but really focus on look at where we've come from, look at where we are now. And so we have works. The first program is a work by Nacho Duato, his most well-known Jardy Tankett, that's in our repertory, but we haven't done it quite a few years. So we open with that, and then we close with Gustavo Ramirez Sanzano. So I bookended so people can see the trajectory of these two Spanish choreographers. And in the middle are these little gems of our repertory. So the first is a trio from Graciela Daniel, from her beautiful work Cada Noche Tango. Graciela Daniel is important because she is a glass ceiling shatterer. She was one of the first, one of the first Latinas, she's from Argentina, to choreograph on Broadway. And so we honor that, and she had a partnership with that. And then Vicente Nebrada, who's not spoken a lot about, but in the ballet world, he did incredible work and was one of the first South American choreographers from the Harkness Ballet to do work throughout the country and the world, building work. He was a choreographer. So that's the first program. And of his work, we're doing two beautiful duets from Batucada Fantástica, really physically demanding with samba music. So again, we want to honor the beginnings of trying to fuse, these two genres of Latin and ballet. And then the second program is Ramon Ollier, which is another pivotal choreographer for us. He's also from Barcelona, and he did this beautiful work called Goodnight Paradise. The interesting thing about this piece is I did this. I was the first cast. I helped build that work with him. But we had a damaging storm here, hurricane that hit Sandy, that hit us and ruined our facility, and we lost most of our costumes. So I needed to bring this one back, and we have, and it's great. And so in that, this whole idea of resurgence, he needed to switch it. So he did kind of an Ohad thing, and he's really changed the piece. It's not the same piece. It speaks to today. He wanted to bring it up to today. This was something that was done in 1991. He was like, nah, now that I have the opportunity with the costumes, let's move on. So it's going to be really interesting to look at those pieces side by side someday. And then we have some more nuggets. A work of mine that's honoring Celia Cruz. It's a duet, which is really great. Then the Foresight duet with New Sleep, followed by Tiburones. Annabelle Lopez Ochoa, who everyone knows now. And her and I have a very special relationship. We've been working together for a while. She did this work in answer to the West Side Story madness that's happening right now. The work is titled Tiburones, which means sharks in Spanish. And it's a very interesting reflection on community and the gaze, how people look at community and give them their traits or give them their stereotypes. And then we have matinees, performances with Andrea Miller, a fabulous choreographer, Annabelle Lopez's Ochoa Sombrerísimo, and closing up is Pedro Ruiz Club Havana, which, you know, it's just like having a beautiful piece of cake. Latin cake.
That sounds amazing, honestly. Sounds absolutely...
I hope I didn't go into it too much. I hope that was okay.
Oh, no, that was absolute perfection, honestly. It was amazing. And I wish I was there to see it. It's we were talking before about how you must bring the company over to London so you can bring that Latino spirit and those wonderful dances, and that particular, you know, this program would just be extraordinary to be able to witness. So let's look forward then. What's the next 5-10 years for the company?
Well, for the company, I think first for the organization is to cement us as a hub of Latinx art, research, conversation. I've been developing different ways of nurturing emerging artists. We have a choreographic institute called Instituto Coreográfico. I want to expand that. We have Latinx convenings of dance leaders, and so we want to expand that as well. We have forums in where we talk about race, dance, and culture, bringing in guests. That it's important that the artists, that's the thing about our dancers, they're so committed to a lot of this. They are part of all this. Our students get to be in the mix. So I really want to develop that even further and really have a larger impact to the conversation or in the conversation. As far as the company, a lot more full-length work. So I'm in plans right now with Annabelle, and we're doing to close our 50th anniversary, a full-length work. And I don't know if I can say who's it about.
No, that's okay. It's good to keep the secret until you're ready to reveal.
It's about a very strong Latina woman. I know she just did a work on Frida Kahlo, and I was there in Amsterdam to see it. It was quite extraordinary. So we're working on a full-length work. So we want to do more. I mean, I'd love to have a work for families. We have a lot of families. I'd love to have a cascanuez, which is called in Spanish is nutcracker, but not so much a nutcracker the way we know it. So I think that would be fun. I think that's what we do in dance. We recreate stories, and it's important to keep recreating those stories for who we are now. I mean, I love a good Swan Lake. I love all of that, but not all the time.
Yeah.
So we need those diverse voices in there, and yeah. So that's a lot already to ask a small repertory company that's only done to start taking on these huge projects. Collaborations. We're working. We have a long relationship with the Apollo Theater in Harlem. We're working on a live music collaboration with them right now. So I'm just continuing to push the envelope on how we explore relationships with our other artists in our field.
Well, it sounds like you have quite, the decade to come. So much to show now.
Yes.
So, one of my favorite questions that I'd like to ask, and particularly given your extensive career, not just as someone leading the company, but someone who's danced within the company. What advice would you give to other aspiring Latino dancers or choreographers today who are looking at the industry and looking at the world and thinking that they want to pursue a professional career themselves?
I besides go for it, first of all, I'll give you some words. Be relentless. Perseverance comes through compassionate stubbornness. I think self taking care of oneself is very important. But, the drive that we have as artists is indicative of the drive that we can have in all areas of our lives. And I want these young people to attempt, because that's what everyone did. That's what Balanchine did. Ailey, they just got in the studio and figured it out. And I know that's easy to say, because some people may have had more access than others, but there are those stories that didn't have the access but found it.
That is really good advice.
Yeah, I mean, I think we tend to cringe a lot about, oh, will I have this? Don't cringe. Yeah, and it's not about having a tough exterior. It's just about, putting yourself out there and demanding to be heard in a very compassionate way.
I like that. That's absolutely wonderful. So back to the 50th anniversary program. Are you touring nationally, internationally?
Both. So we'll be back in Edinburgh next year. We're in talks with some other presenters, some other theaters. Nationally, we have a lot of touring throughout all the areas of the United States. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, that's absolutely wonderful. Well, I just want to say, for listeners and viewers, check out Ballet Hispanico's website for all of the national and international tour dates of this incredible 50th anniversary program. And the website is ballethispanico.org. And check out the Instagram as well, which I was looking at. It's wonderful photos of your gorgeous dancers.
Thank you.
That is Ballet Hispanico as well. Thank you so much, Eduardo. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. Well, as I said before, I hope that you are able to come to London and bring your company here, and to be able to share this with the London audience would just be an absolute treat.
Don't forget to subscribe. We've got some incredible interviews coming up with principal ballerinas and renowned choreographers. We love dance and ballet, and we hope you'll love us. Join us on Facebook and Twitter.